All right, guys, I just want to welcome back to the Agricultural Podcast. Today, you meet Nick here, 2023 preview and prediction for the Rutgers Scarlett Knights. Looking at this coaching staff, Greg Schiano will enter his 15th total season with Rutgers. Of course, that's spread out over two different stints, 80 and 89 record overall with Rutgers. Kurt Karakoa, first year with the school, fourth different job in 4 years, been the offensive coordinator at a multitude of different stops the last couple seasons. Joe Harasmiak, 37 years old, second season in the role as defensive coordinator. Both of these coordinators, Nick, worked under P.J. Fleck at Minnesota, so Schiano went up north to snag the guys that will run his football team. Still trying to find that expected stride and being more competitive for Rutgers. Obviously, we never expect this team to win 10 games or anything like that, but I definitely think they can be competitive in this conference against some of the tougher opponents. If they want to do that, though, Nick, this offense is going to have to be a lot better. 17.4 points per game a season ago. Nothing really worked for them at all. They did crack the top 100 rush yards per game, but we still expected them to be a lot better on the ground. Samuel Brown was a good performer, was a very efficient runner in the month of October before getting hurt. 6'1", 220. Aaron Young barely saw the field last season. Kyle Monaga had some respectable production. I remember last year we expected good things from this backfield. The run game got worse, though. Should hopefully clear 150 this year. I think they have a couple of options to get the ground game going. But if they want that to happen, the quarterback room's got to be better in their own right. Gavin Wismit mainly played at the end of the year, completed 44% of his passes, was solid versus Michigan State. He had 236 and 2 scores. But he had 3 picks earlier, the week earlier against Michigan. Evan Simon started most of the first half of the season, 58% comp rate for him. More picks and TDs for both of these guys. They made no moves in the portal. Both were sophomores in 2022, so I think they're just trying to establish a culture here with these players getting older. They're trying to make these guys into good ball players as the years go on. What are your thoughts on this passing game, and can the running game meet some more expectations we have for them?
I think Wismat's going to take over and be the starting quarterback. Not the most incredible starter, but he had a decent game throughout the season. There is some potential there, young player, so he's going to gain experience overall. I think it's a good player to have. The running back room, I like it a lot. I think Samuel Brown's looked good in his 7 games, limited appearances, 369 yards on the ground, 3 scores. Kyle Monagai, 444 yards on the ground, 2 scores for him. He also had 6 catches out of the backfield. Can be involved, kind of a dual threat sort of guy. This wide receiving room has some talent. They brought in some nice pieces as well. So overall, I think this offense is improving slowly, but it's going to take a while to build them up to a level to compete in the Big Ten.
And they're going to have to recruit better at the wide receiver position. 6'2", 205, Nazim Brantley was a good player at the FCS level for Western Illinois and Sacred Heart. Productive player in those regards. That's about it, though, in terms of, experience and guys that have actually did something in their career. Chris Long, 6 foot, 175, only a few grabs last year. Christian Dremel, only 10 career receptions entering his 5th year. Sophomore Rashad Rochelle got 20-plus touches as a runner last year, only 1 reception. Isaiah Washington, Max Patterson, combined for 5 receptions last year. Returning production is as awful as it gets, Nick. This passing attack, you're hopeful that it can get better with some experience under center, but there's nobody to throw the ball to.
No returning production certainly is a problem. Washington's a nice, good little player. Chris Young, 15 catches for him, 200 yards, 13.3 yards per catch for him. Nice player there to add in. Brantley as well, coming over from the FCS level, Sacred Heart. They're a pretty good team in their own conference. They won their conference a few times. He's a good player to add. I like the size there at 6'2", 205, but obviously, like you said, not having a quarterback to throw them is certainly a problem.
You look at the offensive line, Holland Pierce returns at left tackle, out 21 pressures. Mike Kafani, 300-plus snaps at right guard, was awful for them. Ireland Brown, some nice size at 6'3", 300, but he was also a big liability at center. Curtis Dunlap played both guard spots, 23 pressures for him, 4 sacks allowed, not good. Tyler Needham was slotted at right tackle, a few snaps, but overall, an offensive line that just struggled highly. They were not good at pass blocking, a little bit better on the ground, but in terms of protecting the quarterback, that's trying to throw to a bad receiving core, just nothing seems to be going in the right direction for this offense, Nick. They added 3 players in the portal only, and they were all at pass catcher. They lost 7 guys. They do return 5 starters. There's been almost no attempt here to try and get better on this side of the ball. They're just going to have to do it with hard-nosed recruiting. And with the way the portal works, they're going to have to attack the FCS levels, I think, a little bit more. Or maybe try to, get some guys in that region. They can do a lot better, I think, in terms of trying to beef up this offense. They just were not able to do it this offseason.
They can certainly do some work on beefing up this offense. I think there is some room to improve. This offensive line has some potential. There are some nice talented pieces. Holland Pierce is solid. Not a bad piece at all. Ireland Brown has good size. I like him at center, but is a bit of a liability. Nice size. I think they have to hit the portal harder. Greg Schiano is building a defense, but the offense has to be involved too. 17.4 points per game. It's just not enough. 124th in the nation. Their highest ranked was their rush yards per game at 96th. Very poor on offense. They have to figure it out to compete.
F for me. They need to improve at everything. Would you agree with an F? Just simple yes or no?
Yeah, I agree with enough.
You're looking at the defensive side of the ball, like you said, Schiano's certainly building something on this side of the ball, and they actually performed a little bit better than I thought they would last year. Coming into the season, they lost a lot of talent. The production coming back wasn't great, especially in the pass rush. I think they lost their top 5 sack getters, and that certainly led to a cause for concern. But overall, I think they weathered the storm very well. They weathered the storm quite well, 20 sacks compared to the 23 they had earlier on in the year, prior to that in 2021. So it wasn't a, complete colossal failure. It allowed some guys like Wesley Bailey to step up, 30 tackles, 8 TFL, 3.5 sacks. I was very interested to see who would step up on this unit. Bailey was one of them. He ended up being the best pass rusher, was a good run defender. Aaron Lewis, he was an elite presence for them. 250, generated plenty of pressures, but he'll need more production. Sophomores Kenny Fletcher and Jordan Thompson got good experience. Conte Hamilton at 6'4", 270 was a pretty admirable nose. Isaiah Aiton, 6'2", 290, comes over from Ole Miss next to him. Rene Kanga, really solid player behind him. Mayan Atoantu struggled, but good experience. Much happier with this unit than I was entering last season, Nick. I think they can certainly approach that 30 sack mark. I think that's going to be the expectation for me. I think Schiano certainly got things going in the right direction when you look at this unit up front.
Some solid pieces here. Kenny Fletcher, Rene Kanga, limited appearances. They both show some nice potential. Fletcher at 2.5 tackles for loss, plus 1.5 sacks. Maya Anotu, 4.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks for him, 9 total tackles overall. I think those are numbers that are certainly improving. Aaron Lewis, another good piece. I like him a lot. 55 total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. Good numbers out of Lewis. I think he's a good player to have. Keote Hamilton, 24 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack for him. Not bad numbers at all. I think this is a decent little group here that is improving over time. Wesley Bailey, 30 total tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. That's your top leading sack getter there. Returning him is always nice. So I think it's a unit that's improving. There are some nice pieces in the defensive line. They're able to get after the quarterback. I like to see those numbers go up a little bit in the sacks, but this is a decent front seven.
And the best news for them is Mohamed Toure. Unfortunately, had to miss all of last season. That was a big loss for them, but coming into 2023, that might be beneficial because these other guys got to step up. He's a great run-stopping edge. They're going to put him in outside linebacking position. And then you're going to pair that up with some other guys in the middle. Deion Jennings got to go last fall with a great player for them all around versus the run with sounding coverage. Great player here in Jennings. Was the weak side backer for them. Tyreen Powell, he was a good tackler as a middle linebacker. Needs to be more consistent in the other areas, though. I think overall this is a very sound middle defense. They return only 4 starters, Nick, but some of these guys, they do return, like here at linebacker, certainly encouraging, mixed with, again, a defensive line that I think is going to continue to show some nice growth. I think you're going to see big improvements in the sack-getting area, and I think they'll certainly crack the top 50 against the run.
I like this front seven. I think they're going to be good against the run. They'll improve the sack numbers. They return Mohamed Toure is a great add back. It was a shame he couldn't play last year. Deion Jennings, I always say it, great when you return your top tackler, 91 total tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack. Decent coverage, too, 6 pass breakups for him at linebacker. Tyreen Powell, another good player to return at middle linebacker, 71 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks for him, 4 pass breakups. Good numbers there. I think this is a good unit that has some nice players at linebacker, that these guys got some good experience. They played some snaps last year. I think this is a unit that's really underrated in the Big Ten.
You look at the secondary, this is certainly a strength for them, at least heading into last year it was. We were excited for them. They were about just as good. Didn't really show, they weren't much better. They weren't much worse, just right where we expected them to be. Robert Longerbeam has showcased some solid ball production over the last 2 years. Keyshawn Abraham behind him really struggled in his 6 games. Max Melton was an above-average player in all areas. Still think he has great potential, though. The brother of former star Bo Melton. Flip Dixon, a big addition from Minnesota. The only 3 players I got in the portal on the defensive side of the ball were in the secondary. Dixon's going to be the most impactful one. Probably going to man the slot or be the strong safety. Desmond Igbeson gained good experience at 6'3", 205. They'll just need him to flat out play better. Still a big fan of the secondary. They do have some big-time departures. Chris Braswell, of course, and then Christian Isian. He's gone. But I think this is still going to be a strong area for this defense, Nick. And if the pass rush can start to pick up the pace a little bit, they could really be a tough out on given Saturdays.
Certainly a huge fan of this secondary. I think it's a great unit. Longerbeam, fantastic player, 36 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 6 pass breakups. Max Melton, 10 pass breakups, led the team in that regard. Great in coverage, 2 tackles for loss, 33 total tackles. Desmond Igbeson, good player, 55 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 4 pass breakups. They made some nice portal work in the secondary as well. This is a very good unit that rounds off what is actually a pretty solid defense and a very underrated defense in the Big Ten.
I mean, you look at the numbers, they allowed about 350 yards per game. That was a great mark. But you look at the points per game, they allowed almost 30 of those per contest. And the biggest reason why, they allowed a 95% score rate in the red zone. That was dead last in college football. I think we need to get that number down to about 70%. That's certainly capable, Nick. It's certainly hard to perform in the red zone. But this is not a hard area to improve on. I don't think it's a tough ask one bit to get down to at least the 78% mark they were in 2021 when they gave about 25 points per game. So holding teams to field goals more than touchdowns, that's something that's going to be a big focal point for them. I think it's certainly achievable. And that's why I'm going to give them a B+ here. Very happy with this unit. Much more impressed than I thought I would be. The points per game number is a bit of a concern, but again, I think they're going to improve on that. Very happy with what this side of the ball holds for the Rutgers football team.
Very happy with this defense. It's fantastic. Greg Schiano, when he returned as head coach, you knew the defense would be a priority as he was poached away from Ohio State as their defensive coordinator. Very talented team on defense. A lot of nice pieces that have a lot of good production potential. This team is very good against the pass. They'll be pretty good against the run again this year. Just got to cut down that points per game. I think that's the big issue, is cut down the points per game, and that's going to come down to red zone stops, like you said. I think it's possible this year. I love this defense. I'm very high on this Rutgers defense.
Looking at schedule preview and prediction, Rutgers is still a team trending in the right direction. Schiano's going to be here forever. They're not going to get rid of him, I don't think. But the offense is worse than anything Iowa has ever fielded. And even if the run game can be a little bit more flashy, the ceiling is still very low. The defense will rebound. I think they'll be the best one in Schiano's second term here. Can't predict much based off that alone. They seem to develop players real well, though, on defense. A 5-win season will be a good step in the right direction. That 2-game winning streak I'm predicting over Michigan State and Iowa back-to-back in October, that would mean so much for this program, Nick. 5 wins would certainly be a step in the right direction. Don't know how they're going to score points, but again, a big key is cutting down on points allowed in the red zone. And if they can do that, they can certainly outscore some of these opponents here. The first 3 wins, complete cakewalks. The 2 ones in the conference, though, again, would be massive for this program.
This is a team I'm a fan of. I grew up close to Rutgers. It was my closest FBS team when I was a kid. Greg Schiano, a Jersey boy. I love that he's been coaching here. He's, probably got this job for life, like you said. And he had a 5-win season 21, 4 wins last year, a bit of a regression. I think they're going to get the 5 wins this year. I like the schedule. It's favorable. Certainly Northwestern early in the season in conference. Michigan State, Indiana, teams they could beat. Temple, Wagner out of conference. They might even be able to beat Virginia Tech at home. I think it's certainly possible to get the 6 wins and potentially push bowl eligibility. I think Schiano was the right hire. I love the direction the defense is going. It's fantastic. The offense, they need to have a pulse. Having a new offensive coordinator might help with that. They're trending in the right direction potentially. I think Rutgers, they'll never be a 10-win team in the Big Ten, right? That's never going to happen. But I think they could be bowl eligible, consistent in the future with Schiano at the helm. I love the direction the program's going. I'm happy as a fan of this team. I like the way this is going. I think 5 wins would make a lot of fans happy. Attendance is getting back up at the stadium in Piscataway. Things are looking up for Rutgers here. I like where they are. They're in a good spot in the Big Ten. I think this is a good spot, good home for them. And overall, this team will continue to improve. They're not a pushover anymore. Some of these bigger teams like Iowa, Penn State, Wisconsin, they might struggle, even Maryland. They're not a pushover anymore. This team means business on defense. They're getting better.
Yeah, and September 3rd, that's a Sunday when they host Northwestern, noon on CBS. That's going to have some extra eyes drawn to this contest. A bit of a tune-up there on that Sunday before Florida State and LSU take center stage. Nick, that's a very interesting game there. It's probably going to be a low-scoring contest, but I love the extra attention they're going to draw. I'll certainly be tuned in.
I love it as well. I think a Sunday scheduled game is fantastic. Like you said, it's kind of the pre-game for the bigger contests on Sunday that we've been talking about for weeks with LSU and Florida State. I think it's an exciting game to play on Sunday, national TV. The eyes will be on it. I think it's fantastic. It's a shame about the Northwestern scandal. That's sort of putting a sour eye on it, but I'm excited for that scheduled game here. I think it's a great idea for them to be playing on prime TV at noon on Sunday.
Appreciate you joining me. I know you love talking about Rutgers, Nick. I think it's certainly going to be a good season for them, 5-7. Certainly, prediction I usually don't make for a team like this, but I definitely think those are winnable games in October. Very tough schedule all around, though, but I think it's certainly going to be a step in the right direction for Schiano and crew.
As a fan of the program, 5-7 will make me very happy. I think they're heading in the right direction. I love Schiano as the coach. I was so happy when they rehired him. I think this is working out great so far. It's a bit of a long-term rebuild. We knew that, but they're not a pushover in the Big Ten anymore. They're slowly building towards sustained success for this program. I like it.
Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.